Hello, everyone. Good day. Welcome to the Leon LeGray podcast, episode 257. And man, we've gone pretty far in the this year, and I'm glad I have to say I'm pushing more episodes this time around. Unfortunately, I didn't get to post on Friday. Apologies for that, everyone. I know I'm quite behind. Which, speaking of, since it is Monday, I'll be posting this episode by tonight, so it will get onto everyone's ears and everyone on every podcast platform before the end of the day. So today, I want to go over a topic that's been in my mind, and lately, I've been talking about the direction that Microsoft ever since the whole thing with Windows and the issues with Office. I mean, a lot of people have had issues with a lot of platforms lately. So because of that, I wanted to go over something that I've just been looking up today. And so today I am going to go over GitHub. While I will put it this way, GitHub is one of the biggest platforms for developers and coders out there too, which, to be said, it is a very big platform for coders and developers, putting their code out there to people. And one thing I've realized something during everything happening, one of the things I've been seeing with GitHub, that it is, well, now it's part of Microsoft. I mean, it's been part of Microsoft for some time already. And with Microsoft that acquired GitHub for $7.5 billion, which goes back in 2018. So that's been some several years now. Now, in this episode, I want to go over about what it has been Microsoft been doing with the GitHub and just the GitHub site and what's been going on lately in the camp, because I know I've talked about Microsoft but haven't talked about GitHub to a further extent. As some of you may have heard about GitHub CEO Thomas Dohmke, which he announced his resignation back in August 11th, 2025, and will officially which he left the company since then. And that's one of the things GitHub has gone through, is they've had so much things happening even through the whole process when he stepped out back in 2025, which was, well, last year, of course. And it's been some months already as far as things have gone. Now, I wanted to go over that because who knows what had happened to Thomas Dohmke and why he ended up resigning back in August. So that right there is a mystery of its own too. And because of that, right now, GitHub currently has no single CEO on who's running GitHub at this point, or anything of that matter. So now it is under the hands of Microsoft. Well, in that umbrella, of course, because they just don't have a CEO that can replace Thomas. So that's the one thing we are seeing with Microsoft, with the control. Now, because of what Microsoft has been doing, which has been very questionable lately, and everything that we've been seeing with Microsoft's can, and I'm not sure how well they're gonna, maintain GitHub, because we're looking with GitHub becoming a lot more, how could I put it this way, closed sourced. Because this is why, if we've seen any company that buys another company will likely to keep things closed source. And GitHub is no longer this open and free platform. The way I view it right there too. And who knows what had happened, and I will continue to elaborate, especially with Thomas on what he's been doing since the last several months. And so in this post, in the title here, it says off Wiedersehen GitHub, a heart shape emoji, which I will put this news down in the description so you guys can read it in your spare time. And so he goes on in this point of this article, which is basically like a farewell blog, which says, I'm stepping down as GitHub CEO to build my next adventure. GitHub is thriving and has a bright future ahead. The following is the internal post I sent to GitHub employees, Hubbers, this morning announcing my departure. And then the article continues on. As I'm reading it here, here it states down below, over a decade, my family and I have made the leap to move from Germany to the United States after the sale of my startup to Microsoft. In the years since, I've had the privilege of working with many expectational human beings, including Hubbers, Microsofties, customers, partners, our GitHub stars, open source maintainers, and developers around the world who've helped us shape GitHub from building mobile developer tools to run the acquisition of GitHub. Alongside Nat Freeman to become GitHub's CEO and guiding us to the age of Copilot and AI, it has been the ride of a lifetime, he states. And this continues here. It says in the blog, still, after all this time, my startup roots have begun tugging on me, and I've decided to leave GitHub to become a founder again. GitHub and its leadership team will continue to mission as part of Microsoft Core AI organization, with more details shared soon. I'll be staying through the end of 2025 to help guide the transition. I'm leaving with a deep sense of pride in everything we've built as a remote-first organization spread around the world. With more than 1 billion repos and forks and over 150 million developers, GitHub has never been stronger than it is today. We've seen more open source projects with more contributions every year. AI projects have doubled in the last year alone, and our presence in companies of any size is unmatched in the market. The GitHub platform has continued to lead with incredible momentum. We massively improve accessibility and availability. I brought GitHub to the EU, Australia, and back to the US for FedRAMP certification, and fixed a ton of small and not so small paper cuts. GitHub Advanced secretly transformed the industry toward found means fix with the power of AI, reducing mean time to remediation by 60%, and enabling teams with to fix vulnerabilities 3x faster. GitHub Actions have firmly matured into the world's leading CI solutions, now powering 3 billion minutes per month, up 64% year by year, fueled by many key ships and stability improvements. And of course, together, we launched and scaled Copilot from a simple but magical auto-completion tool to conversational coding with Copilot chat and video, to reviewing and fixing code, to full stack app creation with GitHub Spark today. GitHub Copilot is the leader of the most successful and thriving market in the age of AI. With over 20 million users and counting, we did this by innovating ahead of the curve and showing grit and determination when challenged by the disruptors in our space. In just the last year, GitHub Copilot became the first model solutions at Microsoft in partnership with Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI. We enabled Copilot free for millions and introduced the synchronous agent mode in VS Code, as well as the asynchronous coding agent native to GitHub. So this is a long one right there too. I'm almost done right there. Because of the relentless work, GitHub Copilot has introduced the greatest change to software development since the advent of the personal computer. While I'm currently proud of our hard-earned business growth, technology built for its own sake means nothing, but vanity unless it serves a greater purpose. We only succeed when the world succeeds too. By launching this new age of developer AI, we've made it possible for anyone, no matter what language they speak at home or how fluent they are in programming, to take their spark of creativity and transform it into something real. I am more convinced than ever that the world will soon see 1 billion developers enabled by billions of AI agents, each imprinting human ingenuity into a new gold rush of software. When that day comes, we'll know where the path begun with GitHub. Thank you, Hubbers, being your colleague and your leader, as it has been a great honor, and I will cherish our many beautiful moments together. We've bent the arc of technology for the better. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Thomas. So that's his blog that he wrote to all the staff, to the Hubbers, and everyone that's used GitHub. So there is my take on this too. So it is amazing how far GitHub has gone through over the many years right now. I know I've heard GitHub had been bought out ever since 2018, and that has been some time too. And GitHub has had a very, very good history for so long. And I would say that I have used GitHub for certain things in collaboration with other people. It is nice. And actually, I couldn't believe that GitHub started 18 years ago, as of 2008. So it has been a long, long time. That's and how long it's been going on. It's cool. Now, one thing I'm going to go over on this is GitHub, with the way it's being run under Microsoft's umbrella and the current model. Remember, as I've read the blog right there to everyone out there. Now, with Microsoft, under that, GitHub being under Microsoft's umbrella, I don't trust that they're going to end up doing a good job having to maintain GitHub. And there is not something I'm not just saying that too, but blogs and other actually outlets have gone through talking about how they're going to end up collecting data. Even so, it's really much of a point where how much of you're going to trust GitHub and in GitHub having to protect user privacy. I just don't think it's going to go out well, because if you are someone that is maintaining the code under that cloud, remember, this is just my own opinion, but I do think GitHub is already toast. It's not going to be the GitHub that we've seen from years back before its buyout from Microsoft. And also, you have to also go over the blog yourself, especially how he talks about the Copilot integration with GitHub. And if even so, I don't have a big trust with that. And also GitHub being in IDE programs such as, how could I put it this way? The IDE programs such as Visual Studio Code, which is a lightweight version of Visual Studio 2022. And you have to note something right there, is that code is, while it's lightweight, code can also be scrutinized because that's under the Microsoft umbrella too. And I will never tend to use it. Well, it's good to start off with Visual Studio's code, and it's lightweight, to give it that. There are other IDEs to use or other freemium versions compared to code. I mean, code, I will say with under VS Code, it is clean. It does the job for you. But you also have to look elsewhere, like WebStorm, which is run under a different company, which that company is run under a Czech company, which, what was it, like JetBrain? So yeah, it's part of JetBrain. And then also other ones, like you could look up like Sublime and or Notepad++. That's one thing I've used before before I got into GitHub. I've always been using IDE programs or text editors when I first started out too, but more on the text editors than I did with IDEs. IDEs are useful. I just don't think that using an IDE under Microsoft will be safe at this point, because on how much of the code that you end up writing or the data that will be passed on to Microsoft, I really have no confidence now. Now, it is good, like, let's say if you're using the code to write stuff, and I don't know how many of you developers are going to end up using Copilot. And I personally wouldn't care to use Copilot because, look, I heard a lot of negatives throughout the months, even especially with how Copilot can do a lot of things behind the scene, and it could also put a lot of weight onto your code. And it's not always good, because we want something that is not harvesting your data. And that's why I find that GitHub, it's used by so many people right now. Don't get me wrong, it is used by so many like billions of developers, and it's great, and it's nothing wrong to use GitHub. Now, if you are using AI tools, I have nothing wrong for developers to make things easy for you guys too. Then that's fine. That is one way I see with GitHub. GitHub is still going to grow, and still of its own merits. I think that it's good that to have options to use what do you want to use, GitHub or another platform to post your code. So there is, like I say, nothing wrong, but I find that if you want to use something else outside of the Microsoft umbrella, that's cool. Now, the one thing I will say is that even if you have all these alternatives and all these repositories to put out there, there's just no guarantee that another maintainer or another platform will be just as suited or as better right there too, because you're going to have developers that are going to say, hey, what is your GitHub? I want to check your GitHub up, because that is pretty much the normal lingua franca right now too, because you got also people that are paying for memberships through GitHub or using that platform every single day. Again, I haven't used GitHub a lot, but I definitely understand pretty much the basic concepts of GitHub right there too, and that is fine. And I will say there is an alternative to GitHub. However, if you ever use other alternatives, I got nothing wrong with this one, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up Codeberg. And what is Codeberg? Codeberg, so here we are. So Codeberg is a software development, but it's free. And what is it? So Codeberg is a nonprofit community-led effort that provides services to free and open source projects such as Git hosting using Forge pages, CI, CD, and a web late instance. And so that is what Codeberg is. Basically a more open source version of GitHub. And so let's get over right there. So how many projects that's there on Codeberg? How many users? So I'll tell you right there. So down to the point, the projects they have right now is over 493,181 projects on Codeberg. The user base is comparatively small compared to GitHub, which GitHub has more users, and now the user base is 309,962 users, and then the members is over 1,000 members, powered by Forger. So that is what Codeberg.org is, and it's basically like an open source platform, but except it's much more open than GitHub. And of course, I'm sure many of you that are listening are probably tech enthusiasts and developers yourself. And now I would say that Codeberg, will it be a platform that will overtake GitHub? No, I don't think overnight it will not, because you're going to still have people relying on GitHub. And let's face it though, it is hard to get developers getting into another Git source or into another website to do any collaborative projects, because GitHub has always been the to-go place to put your code out there too. And even like you've had big names, which, and to my surprise, even a few days ago, I've been hearing of Mila Djokovic. If you're talking about a person like her, she's creating a project over there which has to do with where AI stores all your memories, and basically it's like a AI that doesn't forget. Now it's cool, and I also, Mila Djokovic is creating something with another person by the name of Ben. Now I thought it was very interesting. Now, by the way, if you're saying Mila Djokovic, is that the actress? Well, I'm not stuttering. Yes, the same Mila Djokovic that played in movies such as The Fifth Element, Resident Evil, Ultraviolet, all those well-known movies. Yes, the same actress that played action sci-fi, now doing code development, which I thought it was a lie for a second. I was like, wait, that Mila Djokovic? Yes, her. Yes, doing a GitHub project in collaboration with another person. So I thought it was really, really cool to see that too, and even to know about that, and even understanding that she's going to get into even AI development, which is interesting. But I will say that with GitHub it's still large, and you still got a website that's being run and maintained by a big company such as the likes of Microsoft. Yeah, now you got Codeberg. Its maintenance is very smaller. It's very small, and the staff is run by just only 2 people as of the moment right now, and so it hasn't been around that long. So we're talking about the formation of the website that started in 2008. So only 7 years of its existence. So that's what we are seeing right now too, because with GitHub, which started in the United States, and then Codeberg that started in their headquarters, which is in Berlin, Germany. So that is one thing I would say is, for anyone that wants to use Codeberg, I do think that there is a possibilities for an alternative, because we do need more options than just GitHub alone and its maintenance right there too, because that's why, if anything, because I know there's been creators that have brought GitHub and called out GitHub for data collecting, and I do think that this is going to be a part that's going to give more choices than having to stick with one repo. It's just my personal opinion, because this is no way I would ever want to stick around with one place forever. Again, there's developers still that still relies on GitHub and use collaborative efforts under GitHub, and that's the truth. And the next one, I want to talk about the comparison between Codeberg and GitHub. Now, I wanted to say is that if it was me today, I would end up focusing more on Codeberg because I love the fact that it is best for anyone that advocates for privacy and open source. So that will be me. Now with GitHub, GitHub is used for teams for large open source projects, which that is the comparison I wanted to say with that is it is used for on a larger scale. So if you need to use GitHub, great. Now if you're using for small projects, then Codeberg is pretty much suited for you. So key features on Codeberg: Gita base hosting, no ads, simple UI. Now on GitHub side, actions, code spaces, vast integrations. And then the third part I want to mention is ease of use, straightforward and lightweight under Codeberg. GitHub, highly polished, more complex options. So that kind of narrows it down what you want to use. So if it was me, I'll take the lightweight and straightforward version. But hey, that all depends on your preference and tastes. Then third one is performance, fast for small to medium projects, and that is, I would say that is a good thing for anyone that's using for a smaller scale size project for Codeberg. Now GitHub, in the other hand, scales effectively for massive projects. So that's right there. I would say go ahead and take that. And pricing. Let's get on to pricing. Pricing for the two, free for individuals and teams under Codeberg. GitHub, free tier plus paid plans for enterprises. So if you are an enterprise, someone that works in a large enterprise company, then GitHub, well, that's going to be a big win for you, because I don't think you would want to use something that's going to be that's underdeveloped, because in my personal opinion, Codeberg is probably for someone for smaller uses and anyone that has a smaller team. Now, if you're running a big company, then you're going to have to maintain your code under GitHub. I mean, that's just going to be the way it is. So the limitations, let's get on to that. Limitations, and this is the cons. Here is fewer integrations, smaller community, which it comes down to your preference. Now, if you want to use Codeberg and for a small scale reasons, that's going to be for you. Now, the other limitation is for GitHub's side is corporate ownership, privacy concerns. And that's why if it was me today, under who I should use, I would say as an individual, I would go for Codeberg. Now, if I was going for a higher scale, using GitHub on a higher scale, then GitHub is going to be right for you, even though you're going to have to deal with the privacy concerns. And because since it is under Microsoft's umbrella, you would have to go ahead and stick with GitHub. Now, I'm sure there is a way around about disabling privacy, disabling any data collection under GitHub. You would have to probably go through the settings. There are so many tutorials that you can look up online on how to do it. And that, I would say that is probably one thing, or how I would scale to both of these maintainers, Codeberg and GitHub. So that is pretty much it, and how I would say for the two. So the last thing I will put is this though. There is no who's better than what. At this point, I would say it all depends on your preference and depends on how you're scaling your projects. And I would say, I would say this though. Codeberg will probably get better over time because of the community-driven efforts that people are going to end up using. Now, I do have a Codeberg account. I do want to end up using it a lot more because in my opinion, I do think GitHub is still good. Even right now, it is it is still young. How long has been around? 18 years. So GitHub is there. It's not bad in its infancy. I mean, it's one of those companies that started in San Francisco, and one of those companies. Anytime a project scales and grows, then my worry about this is that when another company buys one company, they're going to have the power to do whatever it wants. And we have to look at it this way. When you are scaling a project from a small project and then end up doing other projects, then GitHub will have its advantages too. So that's kind of my weights in comparison to these two. Because like I say, you can use whatever you want at this point. I personally wouldn't use GitHub except for probably like smaller projects. Now, like I said, you guys can do whatever you want, but let me know down in the comments. So if you're listening on this podcast, and if you're a developer, what things you are using GitHub for? Now, if you have heard of Codeberg, and if this is your first time using Codeberg, well, would you ever use it? I'm actually curious too, because there are a lot of people like myself that is big onto open source and that advocates for more of a privacy focus, a driven scale. That's just me. I would use Codeberg more if it was coming from my end. So anyways, if you like this podcast, give it a like on YouTube, or if you're listening to whatever platform you're listening to, go ahead, let me know what you think of the comparisons what I just made today too. Because do you think that GitHub is already compromised as it is? And if so, as engineers and developers, will you ever jump ship to anything else? I am just curious. Well, anyways, Liam LeGray out, and you guys have a good rest of the day, and have a good start of the week. Everyone, take care of yourselves.